Good evening, everyone. I'm Bonnie Hunter in the basement at Quiltville, and you're here for Quilt-Cam. I'm really excited. I was able to do Quilt-Cam today only because the hubby is out of town and doesn't have tennis, and I am home alone. So we only do this on times when the availability happens. It's not a regular scheduled event. It's a lot of fun, and I hope that you're ready to join me with a project, whatever you're working on. What am I working on tonight? American Patchwork and Quilting magazine, 4 patch blocks. This is the theme this year, 4 patches. The theme is Go For It, F-O-U-R, and that's what I've been doing here with this one. This is based off of a pattern that I had in a previous Adventures with Leaders and Enders book. I took the units, same size units that are in my book Classic Strippy, and am putting them on point and having them surrounded by triangles. Now with these triangles, we've got to have quarter square triangles with the straight grain on the long side for the side triangles, but it's half square triangles with the bias on the long side for the corners. So it's been a little bit of a challenge for me. I had to invent sizes because these start with regular size units, but as soon as you put them on point, the new measurement is from corner to corner, which can be an odd size. It won't be on the inch, it won't be on the half inch, it won't be friendly, it'll be something eighths. And it's been a little bit of a challenge to get those going. But I've got stacks of these units that I have built over the past few months. Oops, that was an optional purple triangle if I wanted to do that. So I've got all of these done. I sewed quite a bit of these while on the road, while traveling and teaching and lecturing. I made lots of them at my friend Irene's house when we were in San Antonio together. I had some time and I stayed with her. So I've got lots of her fabrics in here, as well as some that I bought along the road. And I think this turquoise color is going to be the perfect fabric to set it with. Now these blocks are assembled on point. So row 1 is actually this triangle. Row 2 is triangle, square, triangle. Row 3 is corner triangle, unit, 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 corner triangle, and so forth. So it's not as easy as assembling a 9 patch. I'm having to do it in stages over here. I'm chaining what I can for each block. And in between that, I've got a box here of 1.5 inch leader and ender squares. How many of you saw our most recent May-June issue of Quiltmaker magazine 2015? In it, you will find my block called Idaho Square Dance. This is the perfect project for leaders and enders. And these are some extra blocks I had laying around from my test blocks here. I've got some with red centers, some with blue centers. I've got some extra little parts that have not been assembled yet. They're ready to be added to a block, and I can build those in between the lines of chain piecing other things. If this is your first time joining me on Quilt-Cam, I want to welcome you. As I said, we don't do this regularly. It's very hit or miss. So how can you know when to catch it? Follow my blog. I'll usually give you at least a day's notice, if not 2 days notice, on when we can fit Quilt-Cam in. It usually happens when I'm home in between trips. So follow the blog, read along, you'll have that fair warning. Another thing you can do is follow me on Facebook. If you search for Quiltville, you will find 2 groups. One called Quiltville Friends, that's my main Facebook page where I post off and on through the day. If you join Quiltville's Open Studio, you will be one of around 27,000 quilters globally working on projects together and sharing their progress and asking for helps and hints and sharing all things quilty. So there's a couple groups for you to join on Facebook. If you're on Instagram, look for me at Quiltville_Bonnie, and that will also let you know when we're going to do Quilt-Cam. I keep up to date with Instagram as well. I get my emails by phone. If you are watching on YouTube and you leave a comment on YouTube, it will show up in my email so I can answer your questions or comments that way. If you're on the blog, leave a comment in the comment section to this post. That will also show up in my email. And you can email me directly at quiltville@gmail.com. Already I can tell you that it's warm in this studio. In fact, it was warm enough that I was able to pull the treadle machine out onto the deck this afternoon and got several hours of wonderful sewing in. Can you see what's on the long arm machine behind me? That's the backing that I just pieced with orphan blocks and leftover parts and hunks and chunks of fabric that were gifted and languishing and deep stashed from the 1980s and 90s. So it's really fun to sew that stuff up. I am going to check in with my block here and see where we were. When I'm working on blocks like this, there are points that have to match. So I've got this one point pinned right here so that I can match those squares to each other. It's not as easy as just simply sewing a 9-patch. One thing I like to do is leave the last unit in the underneath the machine if I can, or if I can't, I'll sew a leader and ender square pair through. So what I've got here in a chain, and I have to cut the chain apart. Again, when you're assembling on the diagonal, you can't just leave them connected because the rows are odd. Okay, so we're pinning this out here. So if that one goes out, okay, and I just need to line it back up here to see what we sew next because it all got messed up. Okay, so we're going to add this here. So today I am sewing on, it's an early 1960s, I believe, just by the body style. It's a little bit more contemporary than the 1950s machines. This one is badged Best Built, and it's made in Japan, and it's a lovely robin's egg blue shade of blue. And it's just really a great stitcher. Okay, so here's a point where I had to pin those together to match those, and I'm going to have to pin this section on to match this one. So in order to get things to match correctly, I like to take a pin and find where it goes. Just get it right in that V there. I want to pin the points that are I need to match together, and sometimes it takes me a couple times to get it. Okay, get those 2 points matched, and then align everything else. So that pin is just going straight through those points. And then I take a second pin. And with a second pin, I can pin just above where I went in and out, and then remove the first pin. If I just went in and out and back in, I'd shift everything. So the first pin holds those 2 points together. Just skewer it through just directly, and then place another pin right above that. Okay, now that those two have gone through, I can pull this one back off. And sew that one on. You just keep the chains as long as possible. And I just leave the last whatever it was underneath the needle. These kind of blocks are a little bit more tedious because you do have to stop and pin to match. And there's another thing I do. These triangles are a little bit oversized, and you see those dog ears hanging up there? I want to trim those even with the side of the square so that I have a flat space that I can lay the corner triangle at. If I left the dog ears overlapping, I'd be guessing on my block placement. So I trim those off, and then I can add this corner block, and I'm just going to center that corner on there because it too is a little bit oversized. Anytime I do a square in a square type block or something on point like this, I oversize it just a bit so that I can come back and trim those spots, leaving my 1/4 inch seam allowance where it needs to be. So things tend to look a little bit hinky until I get them trimmed up. Okay, so here's those 3 places that I had to match. They don't look too bad, not too shabby for pinning and matching. I'm going to add this corner to the other end, and then I will have 1 corner left, and we'll join these rows. One of the first things that made a significant difference in my patchwork was trimming dog ears. There's no need to leave them in there. Don't be so lazy that you just sew over them and leave them in there. Okay. I'm pressing these out. And you can tell by the flat spot at the top here that these triangles are oversized. For ease of cutting and squaring down, we left them that way. Okay, so now that one stays in, and it will eventually get to the point where I've got to get that off and sewn on here, and we'll need a leader ender. These two, these corner blocks, need dog ears off, and I just trim even to the side of the row. And usually I do this over my trash can, but I don't want to put my back on you, so they're just making a mess on my tabletop right now. So we have some really exciting things coming up soon. The next issue of 100 Blocks by 100 Designers is close to being released. And there will be a blog hop, and I will participate in that blog hop. So be watching for information on that. We will definitely have giveaways. Okay, so these two seams are pushed out. So that means these two need to be pressed in. And you'll notice that I'm only finger pressing at this point. Because things are on the bias, I don't like to put heat or steam on any untamed things until the block is sewn together. Okay, so now I've got 3 places to match on here. I'm not even sure how I'm going to make this, big I'm going to make this quilt. I guess it depends on how many blocks I can get out of what I've already done, and then do just enough more to round it up. It's probably good enough. This turquoise color was in my mother-in-law's stash when she passed away when my oldest son was 6 weeks old, and I inherited a bunch of her sewing stuff. Things have stayed in my stash for so long. Now my son is 31, so I've had this stuff in my stash, this solid turquoise, for 30 years. It's time for it to come play. What cracks me up is now this turquoise is the in shade again. Everything goes around, comes around. So if you thought I wasn't a pinner, think again. These on-point blocks with matching points, absolutely. Okay, another thing I do is lift up the presser foot and get the fabric right to the needle. And then one more. Okay, you can see I'm in a pickle now because I have to leave the last one under the needle, but I can't sew this one to it unless I get it out. So here's one corner, and it will be trimmed up after I get things done. So before I do this, let me check in and see who's with us. I've heard the phone vibrating, so there's got to be somebody checking in tonight. This is from Beth in Arizona. And she says, I'm binding a jacket and working on a hand applique Christmas block tonight. Christmas. Christmas in April. Well, she's going to be ahead of the game. It's all I can do to sit still, as our only daughter announced yesterday she's getting married. Oh, how wonderful. Her fiance, and she puts that in exclamation point, fiance, like I can't believe it, fiance, proposed at one of the waterfalls in Yosemite. Bad connection, but I got the idea. Thanks for Quilt-Cam tonight. I needed something to keep my mind occupied. So Beth, when is the wedding? And will there be a wedding quilt involved? The world wants to know. And so she's in Arizona. Wonderful. Okay. Jen says, Friendship Cross. I finished this top this afternoon. It's all African fabric. It's a gift for a young man from the Congo who has lost his entire family, lived in a refugee camp for a few years, and has finally found a stable home here in Utah with my daughter's in-laws. Now that this is ready to quilt, I'm spending the evening cleaning out a bin of kits and stuff that need to be broken up and integrated back into my stash. I'm sure there will be scraps, and that's Jen in Utah. Jen, I'm biggie sizing your photo. Oh, honey, that is gorgeous. So this is Friendship Cross from More Adventures with Leaders and Enders. Perfect for a leader ender project. Perfect for using small bits of fabric. And doesn't that look great in those African fabrics? Jen, this is wonderful. He's going to love it. And best wishes on his new life. I love what you did with the border. That's really fun. Lots of scrappy stuff going on there. Wonderful. Okay. We've got Sharon Perry who says, hello from Rangeley, Maine. This is Sharon in Vermont. Sending a big hello from Sharon, Ann, Annie, Connie, Denise, Joanne, Nikki, Roseanne, and Shirley from the Quilty Inn in Rangeley, Maine. I'll be there. I'll be there this fall. I'm so excited. We're here for a week with 3.5 days left in the retreat. We've been busy with lots of different projects to include one of your quilt patterns, Midnight Flight. I've attached a photo collage of all the fun we're having. Had to take out from sewing to join Quilt-Cam tonight. Let's see if we can get this collage to blow up bigger than this. It's got to download. Come on, baby. There it is. So there's some fun going on in Rangeley tonight. Is it any warmer up there? When I was in Maine a couple of weeks ago, it snowed. I couldn't believe it. It snowed. My dogwoods are in bloom. My trees have leaves. It was snowing in Maine. Looks like fun, girls. Please have a good time, and hopefully we'll run into you at some point as well. There's girlfriend Irene. I see a message from girlfriend Irene. She says, San Antonio's calling in. Guess what? It's done. Grand Illusion is D-O-N-E, she says. Thanks so much for the wonderful mystery. As always, I learned a lot of new things from the cutting and piecing of this fun quilt. I used only stash fabrics, which is why I had to use different colors. And remember my boo-boo where I cut the wrong color fabric for the sashing? Well, you'll find those blocks along with some string piecing as well as most of the scraps serving as a backing. I had a great time pulling this one together. She says, miss you. I miss her too. We have so much fun when we're together, but I'll be seeing her this summer in Iowa. So there's her Grand Illusion. Isn't that wonderful? I love how it looks like one block is just passing itself off to the other. They're kind of like doing square dancing where you grab one person's hand and then grab another person's hand. Love it. Let's see what she has for the back as well. Oh, the back is fun. I like that I can see your quilting detail too. That's really pretty. So here's what she did with the back for her Grand Illusion. All the little bits of leftover parts and things that had the wrong color and didn't work out, sew it into the back. It makes a great backing, and then you clear all that little stuff out of your stash. Great job, Irene. Love it. Here's Laura Austin who says, greetings from Florida, and she's working on her sister's choice in blues. Beautiful. Blues, browns, greens. If it gets biggie sized. One thing that I forgot to do while I was on this trip this last time, my phone crashed and I had to reset it back to factory settings. And I got home the other night and it wouldn't connect to the Wi-Fi. And danged if I can remember the Wi-Fi password. So it's just on regular, and it doesn't want to download. Okay, I'll come back to it. Maybe it will download. Come on. So do this. Before you kill your phone and reset it back to factory settings, write down everything because you'll need it. Oh, here it is. Super. See if I can get that biggie sized on there. So she's got her sister's choice blocks all up on her design wall. That quilt's made completely out of 2.5-inch strips and squares and gives you a gazillion bonus units. So everybody should make at least one sister's choice quilt. You'll find that free pattern under the free patterns tab at the top of the blog. I love that. I especially love this quilt when it's not set with sashing. I think we see a lot of quilts with sashing that kind of divides things up, and it's refreshing to see something that is block to block to block without a lot of window panes in it. So that's really beautiful. Love it. So that's from Laura Austin. Jenny Hurlbert says, my first scrap crystals block. Yay for Quilt-Cam. I thought I would share my very first scrap crystals block. Hopefully I will get my seams matched better on the second one, but I'm still proud of me. This will be my fourth 4th quilt top ever. So she's doing fabulous if she's working with those little tiny triangles that finish at 1.5 inches. Come on, camera. This is going to be taking a long time tonight if you're doing this. So scrap crystals came about when I was getting ready to do a cruise to Alaska, and we sewed it on the cruise. Now, if that looks wrong, it's not. That little dark corner becomes part of a secondary design. So it's designed that way purposely. You did wonderful. And here's a secret. Not all my points match either. I sewed mine on a treadle machine when I was just learning to do treadle sewing. And when you're sewing small units and there's a lot of starting and stopping on a treadle, it's a challenge. It's a challenge to match points while your hands are doing this and your feet are doing this. So just keep going. Each one will be better. That is just beautiful. All right, one more. This is from Mallory Anderson, who says, Rosalind is watching with me again tonight. She blew you kisses when you said hi to her last time. It was so cute. Thought I would share a pic of your youngest fan, 13 months. This is Mallory from Indiana. And maybe her picture will load faster, maybe not. I love it. The requests to say hi to children or to blow kisses or tell them a bedtime story, whatever you want me to do on Quilt-Cam, I'll do it. Oh, isn't she adorable? Look at those little chubber cheeks. Isn't she cute? Isn't she cute? What a sweetheart she is. I gotta save that photo. That one's really great. So that one is Rosalind. So hi, Rosalind. How are you, sweetheart? Be nice to your mommy. Let her sew. Speaking of sewing, let's do some more. So at this point, what I need to do, here's a couple of 4 patches in the leader ender box. Here's a couple of pairs of squares. We're just going to sew those as a 4 patch. So as far as leaders and enders go, I've been working on the lozenge project, which is ready now to lay out. It's in 12-inch blocks now, so I just have to lay them out and rearrange them and sew them together. I don't think they'll be timed this trip home, but the next time I'm up at the cabin, I should be able to get that together. So it's about time for another leader ender project, and I just grabbed the 1.5-inch squares because, well, you know, these are as good as anything. So what do you think? You want to do these? Do you have any other ideas for leader ender project? Let me know. Okay, more pin matching here. This is when you really want something chick flicky on Netflix. If you are a Netflix fan, have you watched the series? It's just one season so far of Turn, T-U-R-N. It's about the Revolutionary War, sides against sides. And it's really good. It took me a couple episodes to get into it, but now I'm into the story, and I just finished the first season, and I don't know when the next one will be out. Okay. Pinning to match. Pinning to match is probably my least favorite chore of all, but it's better than ripping out. Okay. It's always a crapshoot because even when you pin, shift happens. Okay. All those pins. I do like the very, very finest pins that I can get. These ones have little itty bitty tiny glass heads, and they're flexible. So it makes it easy to go in and back out. And yeah, they do bend over time, but I love these because they're so easy to pin. They're so fine that they go right through the fabric very easily. And I think these were clover. I'm not sure. I don't remember. Okay. So we're just putting darks to lights for these leader enders 4 patches. Hey, not too shabby. Got those points to match. Let me give it a quick press. Things always look better a little bit pressed, but you know, remember, I did not do any pressing until the block was together. And it lays pretty square. I'll have a little bit of trimming up to do, but I've got way more than my 1/4 inch at each and every point. And that's what's important. I'll square it up later. Okay, we're gonna lay out another one. So all I'm doing is, and I don't think I did it in that one. Whoops. I'm trying to put the lighter ones, the light one in the center, and then 4 dark ones around it. And I'm trying not to match them. I just want variety. And sometimes you have to throw the ugly ones in. There's another light one. Ooh, orange. I think orange with dragonflies. I think that'll work. I think that's one of those Irene fabrics, that dragonflies. In which case, do the green one. Okay, so we got 5 units down, and then we fill in. And I know you can't really see what I'm doing. I wonder if whoops. I lost the screen here. Hang on. Okay. I was just trying to tilt this down a little bit so you can maybe see what I'm laying out here. It's really high tech. It's called push the laptop up further away from you. Okay. So I'm just filling in with these little triangles. And then I have stacks of corner ones. So what I don't finish tonight is likely going to go on this next trip with me. I am headed to Kansas. I'll be in 2 towns in Kansas, and then I fly directly to Spokane, Washington. Because if you're in Kansas, you're already halfway there. So you may as well just continue, because you can't get to Spokane easily from here anyway. Okay. So we pick up one. And so these will, what's not sewn today will likely end up in Ziploc bags in my suitcase, and we'll sew them on the road. I really like this aqua color. Okay, here's a spot to pin. So just let that pin go through the 2 points that you want to match, and then align everything straight. Leave that pin there, and then take a second pin and go through and back and remove the first. That first pin will keep the second one from shifting anything. Okay, so that's as far as I can go there. Going to leave the last one in the machine. I could get more leaders and enders done if I would just use a leader ender every time, which I may switch to now that I have something here. When I first started sewing this batch, I didn't have anything as a project right there. Okay. And you have to cut these apart because it doesn't work in rows to continuously sew those. All right. And with these, you have to keep laying them back down where they were. If anybody can find a way to continuously piece on point units, so far I haven't figured it out. Okay. I love the way this machine stitches. It's got a lot of power and very smooth. So that's the bottom one. And this one pin. So the cabin got a new roof while I was in Maryland and New Jersey. And it looks awesome, and I won't be there to see it until probably June at this rate. Got a couple of really crazy months ahead. I'll be in the Wichita area and then on to Spokane, home for a few days, and off to Tuscany. So, of course, there's no way to do Quilt-Cam from Tuscany. And then I'm home for a few days, just long enough to get some of my body clock back normal, and we go to Alaska. So I've got the hubby coming with me on that trip. He's going to haul stuff around for me. Besides, if he comes, then he can check extra baggage for me too. So we'll be teaching down in Soldotna. Then we have a few days in between to take a train to Fairbanks, and then we'll rent a car and go down to Delta Junction, where I'm looking forward to seeing those ladies again, and the Forget-Me-Not Quilters. And then up to back to Fairbanks for the quilt group there, and then on home on a red-eye flight. So there's no way to get home from Alaska other than a red-eye flight, which I really detest, but we'll do it. It's worth it. Okay. Getting these on there, those corners. I like to center the point of the triangle into the center forepatch so that it's nice and square on there. Even if it's uneven on the edges, it's more important for me to have that point where it needs to go. And yes, I'm trimming dog ears. That one will go there. This one will go here. Hang on just a second. We'll take some more questions. Let me know what you're working on tonight. Has spring decided to spring where you are? It just was so lovely here. I pulled the treadle machine out onto the deck and spent several hours out there. I love to hear the peeper frogs. They're just my favorite. Okay. So far, so good. Here's one corner section. Checking in with you. Where are you from? What are you working on? This is from Monica in Spain. Says, thanks for Quilt-Cam again. I have a question for you, if you don't mind. I've seen you are an IKEA girl. Yes. And buy a lot of gadgets from them, but have you never mentioned their fabric? Have you ever used any? The line called Dita Solid Color seems good quality cotton at a very low price. I am tempted to use it for backgrounds, and she's in Spain. You know, I don't know why I've never bought fabric at IKEA. Some of it felt a little bit more like home deck fabric for me, so maybe a little bit heavy, but I really should buy some and wash it and see what it does. If you do use some, let me know. My thought off the top of my head would it be great for cushions and things like that, draperies. But I hadn't ever thought of using it in a quilt, and I don't know why. I honestly don't why. Usually my basket is full of lights, well, these lights from IKEA, or kitchen gadgets or other things, but no, I've never really looked at the fabric here. So that's something I will have to try. But if you decide to make a quilt and use it in your quilt, let us know how it goes. If anybody out there has used IKEA fabric in their quilting, drop me an email. Let me know how it goes. We'd love your opinion on that. This one is from Sue McElvaney and her Wild and Goosey. She says, love that we are doing Quilt-Cam. Would like my Quilt-Cam buddy's opinion. My Wild and Goosey setting. Here are two options. So she's got one here. Oh boy, I wish I was on Wi-Fi. I'm in the basement, so my signal is just really kind of crummy. In fact, we had to hardwire the laptop because the Wi-Fi signal in here is not great either anyway. Okay, come on. Almost. There it is. Okay, so this is one option. So she's double sashed these beautiful Wild and Goosey blocks. Can you see the neutral is part of the block itself, and then she's used the Aqua to sash them. That's beautiful. I love the pink cornerstones that you've got going on in there. That adds a nice uniformity. Looks like 4 patch cornerstones. Okay. And the other one we'll end up waiting for. I'm sorry. There it is. And this one, okay, I think I'm going to have to look at these. Here's the other one. I really need to open them up side by side on my big screen computer to tell what the difference is. I see the same sashing color, but I'm not sure what the difference is. But I do love that aqua. It looks very similar. Good job. Thank you for sharing that. This one is from Sherry Wonderling, who says, checking in from Pennsylvania, we have 3 generations tuning in for Quilt-Cam. Thanks for joining in for the retreat at my sister's house. How fun. So they're retreating at her sister's. Oh, awesome. So there's Sherry and her daughter and her sister joining us tonight from Pennsylvania. Wonderful. I like what I see on the wall, too. That looks like a Tumalo trail, Sherry. Nice. Okay, and this is So Girl, who says, so great to catch you live on the West Coast tonight. My hubby is hosting bridge, so I get to hang out with you. That's exactly like tennis. That's why we like tennis. That's why we encourage tennis. Go play tennis, and I can feel free to do Quilt-Cam. So glad you could join us tonight. She says, just found out that I also can meet you in Sacramento when you come to California. So thrilled. And that'll be in coming up fairly soon. She said, I have just finished quilting my Grand Illusion, and it's all ready for binding. Can't wait to meet you in Sacramento. And that's from Nancy, also known as So Girl. Emily Elizabeth Christian says, hello from Almaty. She says, my son wakes me with the sun, so I had no trouble making coffee and joining you for Quilt-Cam this sunny morning in Kazakhstan. I'm working on a 1930s sampler block of the month that I bought as a leftover kit on a clearance rack. Kits work well for getting fabric here and giving me decent projects to work on. Here are pictures of the blocks I've already done, and my son had my iPad the other day, so I had to dig through about 50 photos of his feet and me at my cutting table to find them. All righty, so she's got, ooh, how pretty. Love those fabrics. So the 1930s prints are very, very colorful and very springy. Perfect, and I agree. I've bought kits before just for the fabric that's in them and did not even make the project, but they had enough variety. When I was in San Antonio a couple of months ago, I bought just a little kit for a little small wall hanging because I needed the fabric to do the outside triangles for these. So absolutely, and if you can find a kit on clearance, it's a great source of fabric, and that looks just wonderful. I love those sampler blocks. Terrific. And she's got, oh, here she is at her cutting table. Your son got your best side. She's standing there cutting away. Beautiful rug. Wow. Very nice. It's fun to see where you are and where you sew and where your workrooms are and what it looks like where you are. Kathy Dale says, now we can see. Perfect. Good. And this one is from Kathy Nadel, who says, tonight I'm working on backs for my twin sons' Eagle Scout quilts. The fronts are serious, but the backs are going to be scrappy fun with lots of fabrics related to their scouting interests: fishing, archery, nature, astronomy, or orienteering, etc. Only a few weeks left before their Court of Honor ceremony, so need to get moving. Thanks for sharing your Friday night. Now, if it's frustrating or exciting enough to have one son get an Eagle Scout award, I can't imagine what it's like to have 2 sons getting their Eagle Scouts on the same night. And you should be very, very proud, Mom. That's wonderful. She's actually pieced eagles for them here. How nice is that? It says Eagle Scout and the year and their name and their troop number on there. Isn't that fabulous? That took a lot of planning. They will cherish that forever. Congratulations to your sons. That's neat. Neat. And here I am sewing 4 patches, and she's sewing eagles. Bow tie top from Patty Bannister. She says, thanks for Quilt-Cam. I'm still working on my bow tie quilt. Borders are next after I biggie size it for my California king bed. And that's Patty in Central Texas. And she's used lots of brights for her bow ties. She's trying it out there on her bed, and she'll be ready to put on borders soon. I love it. We're busy here in Quilt-Cam tonight. That's fabulous. Okay. So where was I? I was going to sew this corner on, and then I'm going to add that section to this section. And just going to center this here. When I am sewing on-point settings, whether it's an entire quilt or a block, this block is assembled on point just the same way an entire quilt would, with side triangles and corner triangles. It's really important not to stretch the triangles, either the side ones or the corners. Just let them lay there and let the feed dogs take them. Don't hold on. Don't let them stretch, because you'll get a quilt that kind of cups up, or you might end up with kind of an hourglass shape. We want them to lay flat. Okay, we're going to press this one open. And I'm still just finger pressing here. I don't do any iron pressing until the block's together, just because it's on the bias. And I just don't like to manhandle my blocks. I should have that trash can underneath here. Okay, pin to match, right sides together. Blocks like this try my patience with all the pinning stuff. I like stuff like log cabins where you don't have to pin. Okay, there's 1, 2. And if one of these sides looks a little bit more full than the other, I put the one that's more full on the underneath side, so the feed dogs can kind of ease it in a little bit. Okay. And one more. And we pray for no puckers, right? All right, so I've gone as far as I can go. Time for a leader ender square. Somebody asked me earlier in an email, or was it a message on the blog, did you have crab cakes in Maryland? Please tell us if you had crab cakes. I didn't have crab cakes because I don't eat wheat, and there's flour in crab cakes. But instead, you can have a crab salad, and that's almost just as good. Had a great time up in New Jersey. Just wasn't there long enough, but I tell you what, those girls know how to feed you. Okay, 2-pin routine here. Do you hate pinning as much as I do? Oh, I hate pinning. I just want to sew. So I love seams that nest easily, but we want to make sure that I don't have to rip out on these. I really like these blocks. Okay, and that's as far as that one is gone. Let's sew another leader ender pair, see how it looks. Just a light one to a dark one, leave it under the machine. If I don't know what I'm building, 4 patches are just my favorite unit. There's 4 patches in the center of these. I'm dropping most of them on the floor. 4 patches, 4 patches, 4 patches, sometimes 9 patches, and sometimes 16 patches. Just fun. What do you think? Like it? Like it? I do. It'll square up really nice once I get it pressed. I just find with this kind of a block, I have much better luck if I don't iron everything before joining the rows together, which can kind of distort things. Finger pressing is sufficient. Then I can give it a good iron press when it's done. Then I'll use my ruler to trim up 1/4 inch beyond these outside corner points. Okay, getting a good stack there. So here we are with a phone number. Somebody from area code 302 and a Verizon account is sending pictures. It's Marty! I see you, Marty. The picture just came in. So here's Marty's churn dashes, and she put her wild and goosies in the center. She showed me these when I was in Delaware the other day. Marty, I saw your little face come shining through, and I knew that was you. Those are gorgeous. I love it. You've got it together. So you're up to the borders now? Was there text on this message? I went straight for the photos. No, there's no text, just pictures. It's the mystery post. I love it. Now, did you end up doing 2 quilts or whatever? She had a whole stack of these. This one will open up to, oh, that's so cute. I can biggie size here. She did all kinds of different churn dashes, and each one of them has a wild and goosey block quarter in the center. What a fun, fun way to use those up. That is just great. Love it. Patty Bannister, spring in Central Texas. She sent pictures of her irises are already blooming. Goodness sakes. How beautiful is that? So there's some spring in Central Texas with the iris full out in purple. Just majestic. Lovely. Lovely. I can't get enough of the blooming trees. The dogwoods are all in bloom. Most trees here have leaves now. The pink dogwoods are exceptional, but I don't have one near me. Back to the top, Sarah Martin says IKEA fabric. The Dalla horses were IKEA fabric. It is a bit thicker, more like home deck weight, like you said, but washes up very nice and soft and is easy to sew. And that's from Sarah Martin, who will be in Sacramento too. So this is her horses from the IKEA fabric. Were they machine appliqued onto there? So there's her horses with the IKEA fabric. So it would be great. I think the IKEA fabric would also be super for things like bags or table runners, placemats, things like that. It is a more home decky. I like how you put that on the stairs. It gives it a really interesting look. But you can use the IKEA fabric for quilts because she did with her applique. Okay, Rebecca Davidson says, what does a quilter make as a baby shower gift? For the best quilting buddy's soon-to-be-born granddaughter. Not a quilt. Your grandma has already made her a few. I have 2 grandsons, so baby girl dresses are something I don't have a chance to sew. Love it. And she's made a baby girl dress with sugar skulls. That's really cute. Waiting for the photo to open up. I feel like I need the, what's the music from the do-do-do-do-do-do-do? Oh, that's too cute with the little ruffly underpanties. I love it. How sweet is that? And I bet you could make that for less than a yard. So you could just go to your stash and make little girl dresses to your heart's content with skulls. But they're bright colored skulls. Scraptacular, says Karen. Working on a quilt along such small pieces on point, testing my patience. I mean pattern following skills. Thanks for Quilt-Cam. And she's doing the same thing. See if I can get hers to open up. So hers is going to be pieced in rows down the quilt, and that was Editas Sitars, and I decided to do mine in blocks instead because I've done strippy quilts already. But her units, I think, are even smaller than mine. That is absolutely going to be gorgeous. It's in columns, and then there's a place for a really nice print fabric or to do some applique or something in there. That is just lovely. Okay. Caro says, hi, Bonnie from Lake Jackson, Texas. We've had a horrendous storm tonight. Sorry to hear that. 3 inches of rain in 20 minutes. Boy, that is what we call hosing rain. It's just hosing down buckets. That's what happens when you're 12 miles from the Gulf Coast. Listening but no sewing as power is out. Looking forward to seeing you in Las Vegas. Yay, Carol. We'll be looking forward to seeing you. Please take care. Those storms are nothing to trifle with. Hopefully your power will be back on shortly. Donna Dumochel says, checking in from Hemet, California, where our daytime temps are in the low 80s and dipping down into the 50s at night. That's what we call perfect sleeping with the windows open weather. I got to spend a good portion of today working on a binding and embroidering a label and sewing it down to a king-size quilt. I got through 1.5 size of the binding, but decided to quilt as it's a take-along project for an upcoming trip. And if I keep going at this rate, I'll have it done before I leave, and then she won't have a take-along project. So she's working on paper piece pineapple blocks, and says, thanks so much for all you do. I love your new blue pieced backing and the new quilt on the cover of Quilt Maker. And that's Donna from Hemet. Marque says, need help, please. Okay, she's got pictures of a white sewing machine, and she says, I don't know what I've gotten in myself into. Oh, wow. Okay. So she's planning and organizing the first ever quilt show for the Kentucky River area quilt makers here in Jackson, Kentucky. And they want her to handle the registration and displaying the quilts. So if anybody out there has had experience with hanging and planning and layout of a quilt show, get a hold of me and I will email the information on to Marque, because Marque, I've never done that. I have no idea what to tell you how to do or anything like that. So all I can do is ask. If somebody has any hints, helps, or ideas for laying out a quilt show, please email me and I will get it onto you. She also sent a picture of a beautiful white machine. It's turquoise and white. Let's see if I can pull it up here. You can see the machine right there. Gorgeous. Just love these vintage machines. They sew so well. I'll let you know if I hear anything, Marque. Debbie Lou says, so great to see you tonight on Quilt-Cam. I am working on getting my fabrics ready for your workshops with Joe in July. I'll be with Joe of Joe's Country Junction. We're doing a retreat. It's going to be a ton of fun. She says, I will be driving from Florida and my high school classmate will be joining us from Texas. Really looking forward to a super week and seeing you again. It's going to be a fun summer. I can't wait. I just can't wait. Although I do want spring to slow down just a little bit. Okay, so these ones I am doing the light in the center. Tell myself to slow down. Then you get crazy. Do we keep those 4 patches going one direction or not? Okay. I'm not sure if I like that. Maybe need a different color over one. This one, I think. This one is this polka dot was fighting with the other polka dots that were already laid down. Okay. Side triangles. I did cut these in sets of 4, so it's really easy to pick up a stack and lay them in there. And some corner triangles. Okay. All righty, here we go again. Pick up one and sew it. Go as far as you can on your chain. And then when you can't go any farther, either leave the last one under the needle snipping from behind or throw a leader ender there and get them all out and lay them back out. It's the only way I found to assemble on point stuff. And then we get to pinny stuff. I guess pins are our friends. Just keep that chain going as far as it can go. And when you can't go any further, leave the last one there and pull the rest up. Some of these fabrics should have been cut a lot smaller. I don't know what this one was. It was giant paisleys or something. It's in the quilt. Get those dog ears off of there. Things will lay a lot better if you do. So I had a really interesting post the other day. And at the risk of embarrassing somebody, hopefully she's not listening, but I had posted a photo asking, you know, is this too busy? Does this look like, you know, whatever? What are your thoughts? I said, I love this. And it wasn't even my block. It was somebody else's block. And the comments were 50-50. Half the people loved it. The other half said, oh, no, that's way too busy for me. And then this one comment came in, you know, if you would put it together with fabrics from one fabric line, things would match better. And I just had to laugh because I have never made anything from one fabric line in my life, and it wasn't even my block. But that the gal's personality, whose block it was, that was not her style either. So it was just one of those things that was interesting to see what people like and what people don't like, and what one group of people absolutely love, the other people are going, oh no, it's too busy. But I thought it was really, really funny, kind of a cut across the quilt culture of, okay, this, not everybody's going to like everything, and be careful what opinions you ask for, because they will give them. Remind me never to ask for opinions on something I like ever again. Okay, these blocks are going to be a complete pain. Does that fabric look any better with the turquoise? No, I don't think so. That is probably the most hideous unit in the history of the APQ quilt-along. Also in these blocks, I had a charm pack that was given to me by Mary Coble at Quilt Market. And that little charm pack was perfect for this. I could get the 4 triangles. I think I could get enough for 2 blocks out of one 5-inch square for the corner triangles. And really happy to use that in here along with all my other fun scraps. And I love little surprises, like this little neutral square right here that has the beetles in it. Yeah, I love it. There's a bug on the quilt. Little novelties. I'm not crazy about the big giant novelties because I can't cut them up. But little novelties, they're fun. Little lobsters. I did bring home some lobster fabric from Maine, and that was a lot of fun. Well, speaking of bringing fabric home, I came home from New Jersey to a huge box just inside my front door. opened it up. I mean, huge box. All kinds of stuff from Pepper Corey, who's cleaning out her stash. I kept just a few blue pieces that went into the backing that I just finished piecing. But most everything else is going to my friend Mona to start her stash, because she's just a beginner quilter with not much stash to speak of. So that'll be fun for her to dig through. I can't wait to see. And I was thinking, you know, with a bunch of random fabrics like that, I'm trying to take her through the realm of different patterns that we all learned on. So she's done a 4-patch. She turned those 4 patches into 9 patches with alternate squares, so 5 4-patches and 5 4-plane squares. She hasn't done a regular 9-patch yet, but that was almost the same thing. She's done a couple of string quilts. And I think she needs to do a log cabin. So what was your first quilt? If you were just a beginner, what was your first quilt? And what would you recommend for a beginner? She has not done any triangles yet, and I'd like her to not have to worry about triangles yet at this point. And somebody better not say double wedding ring. Okay. Gone as far as we can on this one. So we'll send another 4-patch through. Pick a color, pick a neutral. Always keep boxes of squares on hand. They're always useful. Okay. So far, because I'm pinning, things are matching nicely. If I wasn't pinning, not so much. So there is a time to definitely pin, but I tell you what, it's sure cramping my style. Sewing little 4-patch pairs as my leader and ender here. Wow, I've made 2 whole 4-patches so far tonight. Okay, one more seam and then we'll take some more calls. I'm liking that so far. That turquoise, that aqua is really nice. It's fun that it almost matches my machine here. Okay, pin to match that center point. I'm just telling myself that the time I spend pinning takes less than the time it would take to rip something out. But it's a 3-pin process here. You should try these really fine pins. They're really nice. Okay. One more leader and ender 4-patch for the pile. And we'll sew one more. My little box of individual squares has gone way down. There's not very many left because that's how I pieced all the 4-patches in these blocks. So they're all in here. So now as I'm making scraps, I know that my 1.5 inch square drawer is low. I can focus on some of that from the short strips and the ends of stuff and leftover hunks. They are just 1.5 inch squares. I got to build my variety back up because I need more than this to do what I want to do. Okay. And that point's fairly good enough. Okay, so I'm going to press this one. Number 3 for the night. We're doing well. So one thing I got in the mail today, the snail mail, is my travel packet for going to Tuscany with so many places in just a couple of weeks. I've never been to Italy. I'm so excited to go to Italy. I can hardly stand it, but I haven't even looked at what the weather's going to be. I have no idea what I'm going to pack. I don't have time to even think about what I'm going to pack. I've got to kit up 40 small little hand projects for us to do for our workshop while we're there. So that's probably going to be my day tomorrow and part of my Sunday because I have an afternoon flight out on Sunday to Kansas. So we're going to work on kitting those things up, and it's going to be a lot of fun. If you've been to Tuscany, please tell me that you loved it. From the pictures I've seen online, it looks like an amazing place, and I can't wait to take lots and lots and lots of photos and share them with you. And if you ever have a chance to tour anywhere, I hope that you would come with me because we have a lot of fun. This one is top of the line here, Mona quilt suggestion. I would suggest your Cathedral Stars pattern. So she hasn't done triangles. With your easy angle ruler technique, no problem. Tri-Rex ruler makes the other units no problem. I was afraid of these myself, but since she's new, she knows no fear. Why not dive into the deep end? And that's Sue from Northern New York. I was also thinking of the Scrappy Mountain Majesties. Because you'd get some experience with triangles because you start with 8.5 inch squares and we do triangles, but then you square them up and slice and rearrange. And she wants to do some working with some recycled fabric, and I've got tons of shirts I can send her way. And I think that one might be a really good one to try, but I will definitely show her that one and see if she likes that one. Cynthia says Wi-Fi and Mona's next quilt. If you have a newer router or modern router gateway, the password may be on the router. If not, then you should be able to go into the settings on the laptop to get the password, but it takes digging. Hubby's going to be home tomorrow. He can fix it. I just want to keep sewing. We're early enough in the month, I think, that I have not gone over my data plan yet, and I'm not streaming anything on my phone, so we're good. She says, before you said log cabin, that's exactly what I thought. Mona should conquer next. Great minds. What I think people learn from a log cabin, especially if you pre-cut your logs to the size that they need to be, which is my preferred method. I don't ever like to make log cabins just by sewing pieces down a strip and cutting them apart because they're never accurate, never. Is you're working from the inside out. So it does teach you to be a little bit careful. If your seam isn't where it needs to be, that next log is either going to be too short or too long, depending on what your seam is. So I think a log cabin is a great idea. And I was not thinking of not starting her too small, maybe do it with 2-inch strips instead of 1.5 inch strips. And it would be really fun. So we'll bring that up with her and see. This one's from Margaret, who says, enjoying Quilt-Cam tonight. First live one I've caught in a while. And she said this is regarding her first quilt, a rail fence. November 1984, when I was expecting my son. It became his baby quilt. I still have it, well worn. I didn't quilt again for about 10 years. And we all know what that's like with little ones under feet. Rail fence is a great one. Kathy says, first quilt. My first quilt was a sampler from Georgia Bone Steel, and that's Kathy in South Carolina. So it was probably Georgia's lap quilting. And you know that a lot of us learned, got back into quilting because of Georgia. So thank you, Georgia, for doing all that she did. Here's another one here. This is from Beth. She says, my first quilt ever was also a log cabin, and she's from El Centro, California. So there's lots of log cabins out there. Trail Hikers says, Did Mona finish her quilts? I've enjoyed watching her progress and would love to see the finished quilts. She sent a couple of pictures just yesterday, and I'll put them in tomorrow morning's blog post so you can see what they look like. She actually finished the one quilt for her bed. She shows a picture of it on the bed, and then this is the cool thing, and you have to see it, the picture full size. It won't do to show you here. She found an antique door, like a French door, so it has the window panes in it. And she's turned it sideways, and behind the glass, she's mounted the antique quilt that we found in Charlotte at the end of January. I think we got this quilt for like 25 bucks or something. It was really cute, but really well worn. So she's got that quilt piece in the door as her headboard with her new quilt on the bed. I mean, the woman has gone to town. It's just amazing what she's doing. So I will get her permission, and then I will post her photos in the morning on the blog. So be sure to check that out. This one's from Shirley, who says, Quilt-Cam, hello from Central Texas. Enjoying Quilt-Cam, working on my second family quilt from my brother's shirts. This one is for my niece, shirts and denims in the split 9 patch. She has 3 cute boys, and she's sewing on a Singer 1591 from 1946, inherited from her mother-in-law. Enjoyed seeing you in San Antonio in February. I showed my first split 9 patch in San Antonio with shirts and burgundy, and this is Shirley by the lake. And that photo's opening. Oh, oh, you've got that cool cabinet with the Queen Anne legs. I love that cabinet. So here's her 1591 and her split 9 patch blocks there made from her brother's clothing. Isn't it wonderful? I love these legs because you can actually, when the legs bow out like that, you can sit in front of the needle without your leg hitting the chair. They needed to make the cabinet longer to the right so that the needle is center in the cabinet so that you can sit center in the cabinet. I don't know why they never did that, but these cabinets drive me nuts because after a while, as I'm sitting in front of the needle, my left leg is up against the table leg, and that drives me crazy. Okay, this one is from, we are busy tonight, aren't we busy? Okay, so let's see. Judy Stokes, Leader Ender Project. She says, I started back in April after the Quilt Maker magazine with your flagstones in Addicted to Scraps block came out, making these blocks out of red and white, 1.5 inch and 3.5 inch squares. I'm not sure how I'm going to use these in a quilt, but I'm building 9 patch and snowball units. I have set these aside temporarily to work on the 4-patch sew-along. I'm making my own version of Edida's Scraptacular quilt. So she's got her little Leader and Ender project. This is flagstones. It was featured in my Addicted to Scraps column this past year. So check that out. Love the reds and the whites. I think that's on everybody's bucket list to do a red and a white quilt. So that would be a fabulous one. And Kim Andrews says she's at retreat, busy sewing at the Jane Stickle retreat in Shipshewana, Indiana. Make a ragtime quilt for my niece. Mindless sewing. So this is a big hello to everyone who's in Shipshe for the retreat. Miss you guys. Have a great time without me. And glad you're tuning in tonight, Kim. I hope Shipshewana is a lot warmer than Minnesota. And I think we are just about... Here is Michelle, who says, Quilt-Cam, I'm watching tonight and working on the borders for my Texas tumbleweeds from the Quilt Cruise. The colors are off in the photo. It's red, white, and blue version. I love it so far. And she showed a picture on Instagram of what it looked like outside her window after I showed what my house looked like. Snow, Wyoming, slush, Wyoming. I hope it warms up soon, girlfriend. That looks awesome. That is Texas tumbleweed from More Adventures with Leaders and Enders. Great job. Great job. Okay. Well, it's almost too late for me to start another block. Let me just finish a couple more things here. Oh, Mickey says, I will send Mona a happy pattern. Would love to see her take on it. Send me her snail mail. And she says, by the way, I'm kidding for Paducah and listening. Hi, Mickey. Yeah, that's great. She'd love that. And this one is, oh my goodness. Oh, that is the most precious ever. So when I was in San Antonio, the bluebonnets weren't blooming yet, but guess what? They are now. So here's little Alexis with her portrait in the bluebonnets in San Antonio. Isn't that just gorgeous? I lived in Texas for 3.5 years and never made it to the hill country to see the bluebonnets. But from what I understand, as you drive up and down the highway, you will see groups of people, everybody getting their pictures taken in the bluebonnets and trying not to have other people in the frame of their camera. That is just, she is the sweetest, most smiley girl I have ever met in my life. That's Alexis. She's gorgeous. Just lovely. Okay. That was in text message. This is back to email. I think I'm kind of pooped out on pinning these. We did 3. That's good for an hour, right? That's good. Marietta says, Grand Illusion. It's Marietta from warm Brisbane here. These are my first 11 blocks, first ever Bonnie quilt. So challenging, but I'm learning so much as I go along the way. Thank you for your generosity in providing these patterns. You're welcome. It helps me use my stash too. I got you live today, only second time ever. Loved it. And this is her color. She's got purple and pink and gold and black and some neutrals in there, and it's being very slow to open. Come on, baby. Oh, that looks gorgeous. So that's her Grand Illusion from Brisbane, Australia, where it is turning autumn. Turning autumn there if we are down to spring. Well, everybody, I have absolutely loved it tonight. I'm pooped out. It's been a long day. All that treadling on the deck got to me today, but I did get the quilt back done. So tomorrow maybe we'll get that loaded and it can be running while I'm kitting up 40 kits to take to Tuscany. Next Quilt-Cam time. I can try to do one before I go to Tuscany. I won't be going up to the cabin probably until June, so we can shoot for it. Just keep watching the blog. I'll keep you posted. I'll give you at least 24 hours notice. It just depends on when tennis league is so that I can feel free to do this late into the night and not spend time with my hubs. So I will catch you guys later. If it's still early where you are, keep sewing. See if you can squeeze out another half hour, another 45 minutes. Maybe you can clear off a section of your cutting table in that amount of time. Maybe you can iron a bunch of fat quarters that you're going to be trimming for your next, cutting up for your next quilt. Maybe you can sort through some projects and see what you can finish smaller and donate. Maybe you can, I don't know, keep working on what you're working on. Just drew a blank. Anyways, it's bedtime here in Quiltville, and that's exactly where I'm headed. I'll catch you next time from the basement. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.